First the issue. I could have stopped him. It's me. Definitely my fault. Definitely my fault.
No, I'm gonna do me regardless. I told him leave his moms and, the people home, and he still broke them. It's crazy, man. It's gonna get bad, man. But, it's all love.
Gervonta Davis has just engaged Lamont Roach in another intense back and forth on social media after claiming the fight was his to win, and the Reaper only won the fight because he allowed it. This is a very controversial take, as not only Lamont Roach came for him, but countless fans and many boxing professionals who have even gone to the extreme with claims that Lamont Roach won the fight with or without the knockdown.
You live and you learn. I definitely could have. That was on me too. That was on me for sure. Cause I ain't pick it up when I supposed to pick it up, and I could have definitely did more. He caught me with a good shot, but it was times that I sat in there with him and I'm like, damn, this guy like super slow. Well, not super slow, but he's slow, and I could have took advantage of the moments, but.
There's first the general belief that Lamont Roach won the fight when the knockdown is considered, and he was only cheated because all the judges scored the 9th round for Gervonta Davis, a round he would have easily been disqualified or penalized if all the judges had their thinking caps on. However, with Gervonta Davis's recent comment where he claimed Lamont Roach only got the win because he permitted him, many have gone the extra mile of saying Tank didn't deserve the win, even with the overlooked knockdown.
I think I was boxing too much in the beginning. And when I felt like he was slow, it was just already late down the line type of thing.
Many believe that Roach Jr. and his team have a great case for getting the call overturned if they appeal. However, the case was ruled against them. Despite Roach starting his knockdown overturn case, his pleas were declined. He had made a series of X posts, the first of which wrote, "Y'all tweaking if y'all think Buddy was off or some or had an off night. That stuff is just different there with me. I told y'all from the start, just because I feel like I won y'all acting like I said he was easy work or some. The knockdown gives me a UD. He followed this up by asserting, "I did take care of that in the ring, Ely. You are about to make me get on you with this bias. I know he yo peoples but leave it be. I ain't suing anybody. I'm getting a clear knockdown situated that they robbed me off. Get it right, guy. Report that."
Why not? What you talking about? He like, "Nah, ain't gonna give it to you." I was like, "Oh, is that right?" So, that's how boxing work. It's sad to say, that's how boxing work. I'm not like totally upset. I figured with a superstar, you won't get too much on paper.
When someone suggested that the knockdown getting overturned would mean he won a split decision rather than a unanimous decision over Davis, Roach Jr. said, "The guy who scored the fight for Tank gave him that round. If the knockdown count is 10, 8 my way, that's a 3-point swing, so I would have won that card too. Go back to your cave, casual." Roach Jr. is right that a knockdown overturn would earn him a unanimous decision and not a split decision victory. But he would surely be happy with either. The major takeaway from Davis Roach was not that Tank had been exposed as some kind of fraud or had turned in a lousy performance. It was that Roach fought masterfully and had just the right talent level and game plan to give Davis fits.
You think about what happened in the 9th round. How frustrated are you that wasn't counted as a knockdown?
Man. I'm not.
That's not to say Tank doesn't deserve criticism for his performance. As many people have pointed out, his tendency to start slow and to be excessively economical with his punches caught up to him or nearly caught up to him, depending on how you view him getting a draw on his record. And his behavior in the 9th round, thinking he could call timeout by taking a knee, thinking it was within the rules for him to ask his cornermen to towel grease from his eyes. Basically, him assuming A-side treatment from Willis and getting it deserves endless criticism. But Roach deserves credit more than Davis deserves criticism. He took on an elite counterpuncher and out-countered him, answering nearly every Davis left hook with a right hand. He didn't bite on Tank's traps and feints and patiently waited and set some traps of his own.
I damn sure thought I had it. Especially when they announced the score for him. I was like, oh, they gonna give me a split decision win. I was like, oh, yeah. Honestly, I thought I should have won without that being counted a knockdown. Look, I ain't the ref. I ain't really, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he had to wipe sweat out.
When he traded punches, he did so just long enough to let Davis know he meant business and then got out of there and stopped exchanging. And he must have a tremendous chin, because while his defense, anticipation, and counterpunching limited the number of clean shots he took, he still got cracked on the jaw a few times and emerged to hear scores read, something Tank's opponents aren't supposed to do. There were plenty of folks in boxing ripping this as a pointless mismatch, but there were also sharper students of the game touting Roach as a challenger who would likely be competitive. Still, I didn't see anyone picking the Reaper to take a scythe to Tank's perfect record.
His eye, he had the white sweat out his eye, but the rules do state if you voluntarily take a knee, then that's an automatic 8 count. But it is what it is. I wasn't relying on that. I was relying on what I was doing in it. I think I was taking control. I think I was landing more shots. I think I was landing more power shots.
The outcome is something of a lesson that superstars should take the biggest fights they can when they can, because sometimes that marking time bout is the one that bites you. Still, any damage to Davis's reputation can be quickly undone. All he needs to do is sign for an immediate rematch with Roach and get the win next time. At the post-fight press conference, Davis was teasing an unspecified bigger fight that he said would come first. Some speculated maybe that was Tank against Stevenson. For argument's sake, let's say that's precisely what Team Davis has in mind. Well, unfortunately, that fight just lost a lot of its luster.
There you go. But as soon as I heard that 114, I was just like, damn, all right, it's over with. So, yeah, man, it's just crazy. I ain't gonna lie. It's okay. We gonna run it back. It's okay. But if that was kind of a knockdown, I would win the majority decision.
Yeah, Lamont, this is Matt from Brunch.
With a fight like Tank versus Shakur, one that would be billed as potentially determining who is the best American boxer younger than 30, you can't have one of them coming directly off a fight most people think he deserved to lose as a favorite. Davis needs the Roach rematch, even though winning it won't be easy to re-maximize interest in fights against Stevenson and other Four Princes level opponents. The sight of a draw on Davis's record is not a massive hit to his marketability, but the feeling that he was second best in his most recent fight is. So he needs to replace that with another more recent fight in which he is not second best.
I don't know, did y'all see me in the ring tell him to keep counting? he started counting. I was like, why you stop? Like, keep counting. But I honestly don't know. I don't know. But
Davis Roach 2 needs to happen, and it needs to happen next, and it ought to happen in a location where Davis's Baltimore fans and Roach's DC fans can combine to create the most dynamic possible atmosphere, and where New York's Willis, usually a fine ref by the way, will not be on the commission's short list. Well, that's it with Tank Davis right now, the star that once shone bright and was deemed the next big thing after Floyd Mayweather, but now has to battle his inner demons and face the overwhelming task of coming back from a position he'd never found himself in all through his career.
The fight, yeah, just didn't do enough work. I thought that Roach's game plan was.
Davis entered the fight as a massive favorite and was expected by many to collect his 29th career knockout by stopping Roach, who was making his lightweight debut. Behind a pro-Davis crowd, Tank was unable to give the fans the highlight reel finish they have come to expect from the Baltimore native. Instead, Roach stood in the line of fire, absorbed what the hard-hitting Davis had to offer, and responded with shots that stunned not only Davis, but those in attendance. The notoriously patient Davis got off to a slow start in the early rounds as he waited for Roach to make a mistake that he could capitalize on. But Roach refused to give Davis the window to counter and press the action. Davis smiled and talked to Roach early in the fight, but had to get serious once he realized that his opponent wouldn't wilt under the bright lights. Roach Jr., 29, had faced Davis in the amateurs and fell short.
Anybody scared of nobody. It's all about the bread at the end of the day. In the perfect world, if I could have it, how I want to have it, thank God Lamont Roach made a name for 135 division because we needed somebody. Okay. Let's be real. So now we got a new person, thank God. So now we got Lamont Roach. If I could have it my way,
trying to bait, but Roach was just really patient. Roach was patient, bro. He was tight. He was patient, and he wasn't really rushing in. And every now and then he'll make a mistake. He'll probably like lunge a little bit or reach with the right hand, and then he got countered. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't give a whole lot of, and it made me really think. Like, I was like,
Their careers went in different directions once they turned pro, with Davis being one of boxing's biggest stars and Roach being known as a solid fighter who lost in his only other opportunity at a world championship in a defeat to Jamel Herring for the World Boxing Organization super featherweight title in 2019. Davis's ascent to stardom was punctuated by his knockout win over Ryan Garcia in 2023, where he laid claim to be the face of boxing. He almost let the title slip away in an underwhelming performance. Their history may have given Davis a false sense of confidence heading into the fight, but Roach was well prepared for everything Tank had to offer, including his renowned fight-ending power. By the middle rounds, Davis's smile dissolved, and he realized that the knockout he expected wouldn't come easy. The champion began to let his hands go to create openings, but Roach held his ground and caught the champion with counters and combinations. Davis worked almost exclusively to the body, banging away as Roach stayed on the front foot and pushed forward. Undeterred, Roach would sneak a counter in whenever Davis's assault stalled. In round 8, Roach stunned Davis with a counter right hand. Although Davis was never in any real danger, the counterpunching signaled that he couldn't rumble recklessly. Realizing the fight could be slipping away, Davis, 30, pressed the action in the championship rounds. Although he landed some big power shots, he never came close to hurting Roach, but the activity gave him the final 2 rounds on all 3 scorecards to salvage the draw and leave New York with the title. Davis landed 103 of 279 punches in an extremely economic affair, while Roach was more active, landing 112 of 400 punches.
It was a great event. Great event. It was a great fight. They put in a fantastic performance. Both of them did, for real. Both of them really did put in a fantastic performance. It was a great fight. You know, all that good stuff. You know, it was a draw. At the end of the day, people are unsatisfied. You know, I feel like, I always keep it.
The performance of Davis has left some boxing fans wondering if he may no longer be at the peak of his powers, and former 2-weight world champion Paulie Malignaggi has now offered his take ahead of the proposed rematch. Malignaggi knows a thing or two about rematches, having defeated both Juan Diaz and Love Morindu when meeting those fighters for the second time, and he told ProBox TV that he feels there is a mental problem with Tank. There is something that has been said about Gervonta behind the scenes for years that nobody brings out, and it brings to light why they keep matching him with 15 and 21 underdogs.
Keep WBC title and defend against him. So I don't know what that's gonna bring us. But let's move on to the main event. Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach. Certainly, I think the draw controversial, but I think Lamont Roach wins the night. I think his performance wins the night. Here's the thing, though. Lamont Roach was always a solid fighter, solid fundamental, and I'm going to reiterate what I said before. Solid fundamental fighter. Nothing that wows you, though. No crazy speed, no crazy power.
There is a rumor behind the scenes that Gervonta has a lot of B in him, a lot of front runners in him. If you push him, he will break and fold. It starts to add up because Lamont is from the DC area. They grew up around him and they fought in the amateurs. That comes to light where it's been held back from the public with the limited opposition Gervonta has fought in his career. Roach doesn't want to start too fast. You want to measure your pressure and bring it out because you already know what you're dealing with. You know you'll bring the man out of him as the fight wears on. You kind of started seeing that?
He's a solid fundamental fighter who's been well-schooled, well-taught, and well-balanced. And that's who he was tonight. His sense of positioning allowed him to catch and shoot in some spots. He had a mentally strong game plan in terms of he was trying to hold ground a lot and sort of back up Gervonta Davis. Davis still, you know, when you really think about it, he ends up fighting a Lamont Roach, who's a 130-pound champion, been a perennial contender for about 10 years, finally won a world title. You bring him up in weight with
Gervonta fouling, an interpretation that he was trying to bite at one time. I didn't really see it, but the knee and whatnot. Gervonta Davis is mentally weak, but he's physically talented. The way you get a front runner is you drag him to the late rounds. You don't want to take all the chances early on. Fellow lightweight world champion Kesan Davis has also shared his thoughts on how Tank versus Roach unfolded, revealing whether he thought his namesake was exposed. The performance of Tank led to some question marks about his ability, and Kesan has now given his take to the Porter Way podcast on whether or not he feels his lightweight rival was exposed.
With all the lightweights, tough lightweights that are out there, you go outside the weight class to defend the title and get a smaller guy, which is something that he'd done already before with Garcia a couple of years back. The guy he fought before he fought Ryan Garcia. I don't know, man. You know, I can't keep reiterating how disappointing Gervonta Davis has been as far as the resume is concerned.
I don't think he got exposed. I just think Lamont was better than everyone expected him to be. Lamont can really fight. I said that I thought Tank would knock him out, so he proved me wrong. Lamont is better than we made him out to be, but I don't think Tank got exposed or anything like that. In light of Davis's underwhelming performance against Roach, the unbeaten world champion has now spoken out and claimed he can become the first fighter to defeat Tank should he be given the opportunity to do so. Speaking on the Come and Talk to Me podcast, World Boxing Organization lightweight champion Kesan Davis claimed that he has always been confident in himself to beat Davis following their spars together. I always felt that when I really do fight him, I think it's going to be a little easier than what I project it to be, off of just me knowing me and my size and what I bring to the table, so I always felt real confident with me getting in the ring with him.
If you go on my honest opinion, I feel like me and Lamont Roach, stylistically, is the hottest fight in the weight division. Yeah. Lamont Roach stood right there with Gervonta, the hardest puncher in the division, right? Ooh. So put him up against me, I'm not going nowhere.
Y'all really gonna box, man.
We're gonna fight. I feel like stylistically, that's one of the best matchups in the division for sure.
Yeah, it'll be easy. It isn't going to be a physical dogfight. It's going to be a chess match, and I'm just smarter than him. If my confidence was at a 9 before the Roach fight, it's still at a 9. Legendary top-ranked CEO Bob Arum called Davis's performance out when speaking with Sean Zittel on March 28th. I thought Roach won the fight. It was a close fight, Arum said. I think Davis has to start taking boxing seriously. You know, it's not just a media kind of thing. I don't know the kid. But he seems sort of ordinary. A rematch between the two men looked likely for this summer. But newly crowned World Boxing Organization lightweight champion Kesan Davis has an idea of his own.
Alone, I'm gonna go there. When it comes to Shakur and Tank, a lot of people have mentioned that fight. A lot of people say, when I'm arguing with him, going back and forth, they're like, oh, Shakur's ducking. I'm like, I just don't believe that. Mm-hmm. I don't. Obviously, you're closer to that situation.
Oh, yeah, yep.
You think Shakur's ducking?
Ain't nobody scared of nobody.
Davis told the Danza Project that he feels a fight between himself and Roach makes the most sense. Me and Lamont Roach stylistically is the hottest fight in the weight division. Lamont stood right there with Gervonta, the hardest puncher in the division, so put him up against me. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to fight. Ain't nobody scared of nobody. It's all about the bread at the end of the day. In a perfect world, if I can have it like I want to have it, thank God to Lamont Roach for making a name in the 135 division because we needed somebody. Let's be real. Now we've got a new person. If I get my way, Shakur and Tank should fight. Let them do it. Let me fight Lamont. Don't do the rematch yet, was Kesan's suggestion.
I'm knocking him out. Word. I'm knocking him out. I'm not even playing. I'm knocking him out. Counter him. He countered him crazy. They countered each other, but Lamont, I feel like Lamont won. Let's start there, too. I feel like Lamont definitely won. All right, G. I feel like Lamont Roach won. I definitely feel like Lamont Roach won. But a draw, like...
To the point that he took on the role of promoter and gave an idea that will surely appeal to several people. Whatever the outcome between Lamont and I or Shakur and Tank, they can still do the rematch. It's two incredible fights. An incredible fight for Gervonta and another great fight for Lamont. And then Lamont can still go away and fight Shakur, the Norfolk native commented in the interview. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on news, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing, stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when we drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace out.